How do you want to do this?
Just
roll with it.
Yeah, I think so. Welcome to the podcast. We are 40.
Do you think this is episode 1?
I think this is probably episode 1 because I'm thinking most people will be like, I have no idea who these people are. So we should probably, introduce ourselves or talk about ourselves, which is our favorite thing to do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Surprisingly, we don't really like to talk about ourselves, but we should. We should be brave and introduce ourselves to give some sort of credibility. Right?
I'll make it way easier for both of us.
Please.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, I just made it worse. I don't know.
Where were you going to go with that?
I was going to do it backwards. I was going to say, this is Tim Phillips, but it's so weird because you're my husband.
But that's okay.
This is Tim Phillips.
We're here. My name's Tim Phillips. This is my wife.
Jess Phillips.
We are both part-time creatives because that's the nature of the beast. If you are a creative person, the chances are it's the part-time of your life. You probably have other work that you need to generate to put food on the table and have a family and have a life.
And also do well. I think the thing with being a creative person is the more desperate you are, the more for the work, the less likely that work is going to come to you. So I think that the
Totally. We're getting some head nods around here.
Yeah.
Everyone's in agreement. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like part-time creative. You've got to have a job. You've got to have something that puts food on the table and keeps you kind of, in a way, creative and not just looking at the dollar signs at the end of whatever job it is you're trying to get.
That's it. Because if you go in for an audition or whatever your creative outlet might be, that they can tell. So if you don't go in there with confidence within yourself to say, hey, I'm here to put my best foot forward. This is me being creative. If you like it, you can have it. If you don't like it, fine. I'm going back to my day job.
Which is kind of sad that they can tell and they're like, don't want it, because it's like the person that needs it, we're like, ugh, hate that one. I hate the guy that needs it, but the guy that doesn't need it,
they're the
give
ones
him a
that
job.
Get it. The rich get richer.
Yeah, they do.
So we've found that in this day and age, to be creative.
That's Tim's
I do say day and age a lot. My gosh.
Just one little fun fact about Tim. He likes to say this day and age ever since he became a dad. He's also a dad, by the way.
Goodness me.
And I'm
that is such an old man thing to say.
He's my baby daddy.
Goodness me.
Goodness me. And what was the other one? Oops-a-daisy?
Oopa-daisy.
There's this thing with the Phillips family, Tim's side of Tim's Phillips family. They have all of these funny
You call
things.
them Phillipsisms.
Phillipsisms, that's what I call them. Yes, they're things that they say, and because I moved here from Los Angeles, followed Tim, and grew up in New Zealand, I don't know if these are Australian things or they're Phillipsisms a lot of the time. So his mum, Pam, will say something and I'll be like, what is that?
Yeah, does every Aussie say this or is this just
Rattle
Pam?
your dags?
Rattle your dags. That's Aussie.
Yeah. The vroom vroom.
That's
a
Pam
Phillipsism.
Yeah.
It's like the thing that I don't even know what it's called. Now I call it the vroom vroom.
It's like the juicer thing
It's the thing
mix.
you blend. That's not a good way to do it.
You blend the potato. Oh yeah, you blend those potatoes.
It's a stick blender. That's the word for it.
Yeah, or just a vroom vroom. Just to keep it simple.
That's mostly Phillipsisms, so they're just sounds of things, The uppy downy, lifty uppy.
Oh, the lifty uppy.
That's the garage door remote control.
Yep. That's not an Australian thing. That's definitely
a Phillipsism. There's so many I can't even.
So, because there's other ways of releasing your content nowadays, we've decided that we would like to spend more time being creative. We want to create video clips because we get these funny little ideas and we'd often write them down. And now we're like, hey, let's actually shoot them. Let's actually put them out there because we get to then act whenever we want.
Yeah.
We don't need to rely on booking an audition, waiting for an audition, being that one to slip through the cracks that actually gets the job because there can be a lot of talented people going up for these roles. Only one can get them.
Yeah.
So for us, this is about us being able to be creative. We can make these videos. Then we thought, let's make a podcast because we know other creative people in the same boat.
And we love talking about these things.
We do.
A lot of times we think we'll talk about in this podcast is films and TV series that we're watching and just sort of like dissecting it and going over it, because Tim and I can have conversations like this for hours at home about the lighting, about the sound, about the acting, about the directing, about everything, about the whole script and everything. So
we're doing this podcast. We would like to try and bring on every second episode maybe a guest that is also creative. Maybe they're a full-time creative.
It's just more about the hustle and about being creative and all the other things that you need to do to go along with it. And just because you don't need to have that part-time job anymore doesn't mean that they're not a welcome guest. It's just about that whole journey.
Chances are they've been a part-time creative at some point in their journey.
Most people that have made it, no matter what level they are, have had side jobs and times of struggle, or even maybe times where they weren't booking work and they were stressed. So I just think it's a good thing to talk about with other creative
And creatives
people.
probably can't help but feel like maybe those days are ahead of them again, because we're at the mercy of the job we're on at that point in time, whatever's popular, and you could finish up on a show or whatever it may be and then be in a bit of a drought for a while. Who knows? You don't know. So you got to be prepared to still try and keep the dream alive and be satisfied in the meantime as well.
Yeah, I actually remember reading, a friend of mine had put on Twitter, the best time is the time between after you've booked the job and the first day on set. Because once you started the first day on set, you start thinking about, what am I going to do once this job ends? It's just like this, there's this beautiful sweet spot of like, I've booked a job, I've got something coming, I'm in motion. And then it's like, what do I do after this job is over? So it's a funny little time
so
period.
true.
The thing we were saying before is we'll introduce ourselves and each other. Tim and I are married. Obviously, we met in Los Angeles 7.5 years ago. Are we old enough to be that real?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Guess so.
And Tim actually did a film called Liars All with my best friend, and she had been trying to set us up for probably over a year, but we had only met like for 2 minutes at a premiere very briefly for Liars All. It was literally like a, hi, I'm Tim. Hi. He doesn't even remember me.
Well, obviously it was a very busy night for me, seeing all the cast again, a lot of guests.
I remembered him because I knew
people.
that he was the guy that Jackie wanted to set me up with. So fair enough.
Had a bit more weight for you, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps.
And I was like the lead in this cool film, so, you know.
And then we randomly bumped into each other at a pet store. And I remembered him, but I couldn't quite figure out how. And then suddenly I just was like, is your name Tim? Probably quite weirdly, I imagine it.
No, well, I mean, I was trying to figure out a way of like, how do I strike up a conversation with this girl? Like, we're in a pet store, there's limited time. What do I do? And she was in the line in front of me, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just be like, oh, excuse me, or could you hold there? Oh, I just didn't know what. Is that what brand of dog food is that? Is that a good one? Do you recommend it? I don't know.
Funny thing about this story is that I did hear him looking and talking to, looking for pet food and talking to the girl that worked there, and saying he wanted to get like vegetarian or gluten free or some kind of like special dog food for his dog, and I was like, oh, that's like the most LA thing ever.
It was.
It was, the accent, I was like, do I know him from New Zealand? Is it a New Zealand accent? Is it an Australian accent? Is he famous? That's a very common thing in LA. It's like,
because you're not sure.
You're not sure.
I've definitely seen them before, but.
Yeah. And I've done that thing where you're like, oh my God, hey. Oh, shit, you're famous.
Oh my God, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh.
I've actually done that in an audition.
Oh, no.
So Tim is an actor. He has done a lot of work over the years. He started out in the Dolly competition.
Yeah.
Back when he was like 16, 17?
18.
18. And him and his best friend, or one of his best friends, Sam Clark, were the final two.
Final two boys, top two
boys.
Well, in the top 5 boys. Sam ended up booking the role that we were going for. A couple of months later, I got a different role on the show, which sort of kickstarted everything. It was a guest spot on Neighbours, went over there, ended up getting an agent in Melbourne. He was like, you've got to move to Melbourne if you want to commit to this. So made that move.
And your agent was the same one you have now, which is Aaron?
Yep. Aaron Michael Management, been with them ever since 2006 or 7, I guess it would have been.
It's a long time.
So I'm one of the lucky ones. I've been very well looked after and been able to stay with them for a long time, which is fantastic. And then just sort of did a bit of job hopping in Australia. Some of the
What kind of not acting jobs did you do when you lived in Melbourne?
the cliche working in a bar in a backpackers.
Who hasn't?
Gee, that was fun. Where me and my mate, Sam,
Gee.
Gee whiz,
Gee willikers.
golly.
Oh my goodness.
We had our BMXs and we lived on the top of the hill. The bar was at the bottom of the hill. So if I was like, I start my shift in about 30 seconds, just get on the BMX, zip down, I was there.
And Tim was always late because 30 seconds is too late.
I'm not the most punctual, that's for sure.
And then you went to LA for just a little trip to sort of see and meet
Test the
agents.
waters.
That was right.
Yep.
And you
Meet my manager.
linked up with Tiffany.
Tiffany Cousin over there.
And you're still with her. So Tim
Still with her.
is very good at relationships. He really you've been
rock the
so
boat, you know.
lucky with really great representation.
Yeah.
Not many people get to keep their agents and managers for that long.
Yeah.
And they seem to really like you, which is nice, I think. And they seem to really take care of you. So
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm very lucky.
Yes. And then you did Liars All, like I mentioned before. You had a guestie on Once Upon a Time, a couple of episodes of that, and Secret Circle.
Yeah, that was a recurring guest. That was
Yeah.
a great gig.
That was
I only
very
did one season, so, you know.
Yeah.
This is the thing. As a
never
creative, like, if that went on to do a second season, I would have still been there. And then who knows, but that show ends.
Yeah.
And then you're back to the drawing board.
Yeah. And then you did a job that you loved. I know it's one of your favorites, which was Devil May Cry, which is a
Yes.
video game. You played
Yes.
Dante.
Yes.
Put your hands up. Do not fight back.
I'm scared. What will they do to me?
All you need to do is hold on for as long as you can. I will come back for you.
I love watching all the behind the scenes. I found it very attractive. I'm not going to lie. Don't
Motion
know why,
capture.
because you're wearing like a tight spandex suit, but somehow it did it for me.
Good.
I don't know.
Showed off the bite, I guess.
Yep. That was what it was. And then you booked a job back on Neighbours when we first met.
Yeah.
And that brought you back to Australia.
Yeah,
so.
I was keen to come back to Australia. And so at that point it was a 1-year contract, so a year of steady work was pretty appealing.
Look, before you start,
So came back, turned into 2 years, and it was a really good run. Loved it. So, yeah, and since then, little bits and pieces. Some short films, one that went to Tribeca, and
What the hell are we talking about?
a couple with one of my good friends,
kinda
Tom Phillips, that
familiar.
will definitely be on the podcast at some point.
Yes.
He's basically the guy that's keeping me employed as an actor these days, which I love. And he always uses a lot of the same cast, which I think is so cool. We watched Mank, the movie that's on, was it Netflix?
Netflix.
And it's about old school Hollywood. And I think a lot of those old school Hollywood films, the studios, they reuse the same.
Well, they did
people.
it differently back then. So you didn't get a contract for a film, you got a contract for a studio from what
That's
I remember.
right.
And it was like a
Yeah.
5-picture deal. Like they don't
Yeah,
really do
yeah.
that anymore. And it's only been maybe 10 years, I think, since maybe they still do
We
that.
wouldn't know.
But I think they become more less and less common. Like back then, it was like you were an actress with MGM Studios,
Yeah,
and
and then
then you maybe sell you almost like a sports player to like a different studio.
Yeah.
Whatever things.
Which is
are
quite
different
cool.
now.
So
yeah.
it's almost like those guys at We Made a Thing are doing that in a little way. They're keeping some of their regulars on board, which is really nice.
Yes, it's just our little creative outlet.
Yeah, we're excited. The end.
No, you haven't.
Oh.
It's just all it's a Tim show. Tim, when I was pregnant, this is almost like the podcast version of what used to happen to me when I was pregnant. We would go out to a bar and obviously couldn't drink. So Tim would be like, okay, shall I get you something? I'm like, just a water. Every single time, literally every single time, without fail, Tim would go up to the bar, order the drinks, come back with just a beer in his hand for himself. And as soon as he'd see me, he'd have this big, like, Labrador tongue hanging out,
Life is the
face
best.
on. And then I'd be like, where's my water? And he'd be like, oh, shit. And like run back to get the water. This is the same thing. So I've just given Tim his big intro and he's like, this was great.
That's a wrap, everybody.
Anyway, I think it's all over.
Now, Jess, on to you. Well, you moved to. Is this? I feel like this is now like a quiz. Like, how much do I know about my wife? Jess, you
Yeah,
moved
how
to.
much? This is a test.
Well, quickly.
I've
Born in
read-
America.
To be fair, I have like a pretty confusing life story.
A little bit, yeah. Born in America, moved to New Zealand
At
around
8.
8-ish, 8 until 18. Back to America. So sort of your formative years in
New
Zealand,
like most of my life
but-
that I remembered up until 18.
Yeah. But now that we've had a kid, like we can see, geez, he's been in Australia and he's 1.5. That's a lot of his life. It's all of his life. By 8, that's
Yeah.
pretty formative as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to America to pursue.
Yeah, so I went to, originally I was enrolled in the New York branch of the New York Film Academy, which has branches all over the world. And then literally maybe a month before or 6 weeks before we were meant to start school, I decided I wanted to go to the LA branch instead because the idea was I would end up in LA. So I called the school and I said, this is my plan. Do you think it makes more sense for me to go to the LA branch? They said, yeah, probably, because all of your contacts will be there. So they transferred me to the LA version of the New York Film Academy and went to school for 1 year doing screen acting there. And pretty much straight out of school, I was submitting myself every day on, what was it called? Now Casting, I think. It was
Star
the old
Now?
one.
Something?
No,
that's the
it
Aussie
was
one,
the
is it?
old one. It's like now everyone uses LA Casting. I think it was called Now Casting. And also Craigslist, just like scouring for acting jobs. And I was submitting myself because I didn't have an agent. And I submitted for this project that was called Children of Anchor Cove. And I reckon it was like my second audition in LA. And that ended up being what was Lonely Girl 15.
Hi guys, so this is my first video blog.
Which was this web series on YouTube that was sort of one of the first series, and it's very hard to talk about yourself in this way, but it got very popular on YouTube and
It blew up. YouTube was very new. So it was that early stage where people weren't desensitized to everything
To
that could be
tricks
put on.
and
Yeah,
all
to
that
the
stuff,
tricks.
Yeah.
People thought this was a real blogger that ended up going missing. So
sort of, yeah. Not really. They didn't think I went
I haven't
missing at
watched
the
it.
time, but it just was like people were sort of like, oh, is it? It's all right. It's a lot of episodes. People were sort of like, is this a real person? Is this an actor? They weren't really sure. So obviously it was sort of semi-scripted. It had ideas behind each video, but they wanted it to be authentic and very natural. So it was sort of improvised based around their ideas for the video.
and that was the genius behind it because people did think it was real.
Yeah.
So
And so people it was obviously pre-Instagram and all of these things as well. So people weren't used to almost like creating a relationship with someone that they didn't know online. So they had these emotional connections to this girl. She was meant to be 16. She was lonely. She had one best friend that was my friend Yusuf Abu Talib, who played Daniel on the show. And people got really connected to her. And it got to a point where it was getting so popular that I was getting really stressed out because I hate the idea of like hurting people's feelings. And when it got to like knowing that people really loved Brie, which was my character name, I just felt like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then it, got exposed in the LA Times that I was an actress and everyone was behind, other producers were behind it. And there was a girl that was helping us who worked at CAA, but she was just an assistant. So it seemed like a really big production because there was this like CAA link, but actually they had nothing to do with it. It's just that she was an assistant at CAA as her like
and then when you
job
read
at the
that on
time.
paper, you're like,
Yeah,
oh
they're
my
like,
gosh,
oh,
this
wow,
is big
CAA
production.
did it, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And some people end up being a bit annoyed that they felt tricked.
yeah, a little bit of that, but then some people really liked it, and it was just like this new form of media sort of launched a lot of conversations and different, I guess people were realizing you can do different things on this YouTube other than just like funny little cat videos and stuff like that. So then I did a guestie on Greek.
Oh, you. Hello.
I'm just gonna go away.
Which was literally one line. Had such a good time, loved everyone there. The writer was amazing and just like really encouraging. And I did a few, the funny thing about being unexperienced is sometimes ignorance is bliss. And I was improvising, which probably you shouldn't do. As a person that has one line on a show, you probably should not improvise on a professional set when you're not the star. So I was like doing little funny improvises, and they actually liked it, luckily. And I ended up doing about, I think, 9 or 10 episodes for that show. So it did work out in my favor.
Yeah.
But
That's great advice.
now,
then.
as an
Do it.
experienced
Do it,
person,
guys.
I'm like, I can't believe I did that. That's like such a faux pas.
It's that naivety. It's handy
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's sometimes very, very handy.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still had to re-audition for that part, which was funny because it was just this little small bit. And then they had another character that they thought, well, we can kind of merge her into that character. But I hadn't really done a lot of acting yet, so they had me audition for it. And
Just
I
to
kind of
make
thought it was
sure.
in the bag a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'd come straight off Lonely Girl, and I'd already been there, and they liked me. And then I walked into the audition room, and there was literally people sitting on the floor. There was that many girls auditioning for this role.
Oh, jeez.
They could have been in there for other roles too, but I saw it as like, oh my God. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I thought this was my role.
Yeah.
And I could see a girl like going over the same lines that I was about to do. And I'm
Weird.
like, what
Weird.
the hell? I actually don't think I gave the best audition. I don't remember, but
Yeah.
I think they were happy with me in that role. Clearly.
Yeah. Must have been.
And
As
then-
that naivety again, it's handy. You're like,
Yeah.
thank goodness the lead up, you haven't been like feeling nervous and stressed
yeah,
for the
exactly.
whole time
Just
like
walked
everyone
in
else
like
probably
confident,
has.
and then like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is not a producer meeting. This is like an audition.
Yeah. You thought you were in to negotiate your contract.
Pretty much. And then from there, did a film that I got an award for, but it's the opposite of an award. It's called a Razzie. It's like worst film of the year. So I did a film, very small part, but with Lindsay Lohan called I Know Who Killed Me. Aubrey! And it literally won like all the Razzies, but the Razzie was like worst ensemble cast. So technically
hey.
I have a Razzie.
Oh, well, nice. That's
In
pretty
a
good.
way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But you also have a Webby for Best
Right,
Actress.
that was for Lonely Girl. So, it went like up and then down. as
yeah,
things
that's the
do.
journey.
That's the journey.
Sorority Forever.
No Phi Chi, no college.
That was like actually one of the most fun experiences I've had as an actress. I was the lead in that one. So that was a nice sort of feeling because you had Lonely Girl, but that was very like guerrilla style.
And this was then more of like
This is like a more
high-end
professional. This is
production,
like Warner
also being a
Brothers
lead on
were
it.
launching essentially what now would be considered a streaming service. They were almost
Yep.
ahead of their time
Yep.
because that didn't actually work. That service didn't
Yep.
work very well.
So what you're saying is your career was exceptional, but just timed a little bit.
Yeah,
Poorly.
pretty much. I literally had an agent say like, we just don't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
Because it was so early that, yeah, I had like recognition and I had momentum, but it wasn't like momentum from a, film that just came out of Sundance and they knew exactly what the path
Yeah.
was for that. This was like, is she like a reality star or does she want to do more internet stuff? And I was getting all these offers for internet shows. I think I sort of had a very sharp, steep incline to my acting career and then probably like a very sharp, steep decline as well.
Yeah.
And then I've had a lot of odd jobs. Lots of waitressing, lots of bartending.
Well, and you've
Pets,
got a good
catwalking.
business
Yeah.
mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
You had an idea to a lot of people with auditions in LA and everywhere, of course, but you're in LA at the time. It's hard to find someone to run lines with you.
Yeah.
So you wanted to create a platform for people to run lines with other actors that are also
Yeah, essentially I was bartending in about 2012. I had a good manager at the time. He'd often get me an audition for maybe the very next day. And then I'd be bartending from 5 until midnight and I would have gotten the audition at 4. And when am I going to run it if I've got to be there the next morning at 10 o'clock? So it was just frustrating. I remember that particular day that I came up with this idea, texting my dad, seeing if he could maybe like Skype with me at the time and asking my friend, and just worked out that nobody really had the time to help with that particular audition. And I felt quite defeated. And so that kind of spurred this idea of like, I will literally rehearse with anyone. Like another actor would be ideal, even if it was like someone in New Zealand. And then that sort of sparked this idea of We Audition, or what's called We Rehearse when we first made it, where actors can connect with actors from all over the world and rehearse their auditions or scenes, learn accents, sort of actors helping actors. It's now sort of progressed into being called We Audition, and there's auditions that run on that website and stuff too. So,
and the model originally the idea was to keep creatives working.
yeah.
So if you've got an audition that you want to run, you're like, God, I'll pay someone to help me. Then that way you could be paying another actor that's out there that is also keen to use their abilities to act and to help someone else learn their lines and make a bit of money.
Yeah, so you could tip the other payer, which I think you still can. So that's sort of me, and then I followed Tim to Australia because I sort of needed a life change, and it kind of came at the right time. Like, obviously met Tim, and then he had to move pretty quickly, and having New Zealand citizenship as well, I was like, oh, I've got to follow this hottie. So I did.
And now we're married and have a kid together and a podcast.
Yep.
So we're pretty well bound together.
Yeah.
I was thinking, gee, making a podcast, that's almost more binding than having a house and a marriage
have a prenup.
and a kid. Yeah.
Podcast prenup.
Yeah. What happens if
You look like too serious about that.
I didn't think it through that hard.
Yeah.
Maybe we do need a prenup.
So that's us. That's our
us.
little intro. I think sort of what we would love to chat about going forward is movies, series, things like that.
Creatives.
Things we like.
The things we're trying to make as well, like, because we've got one that we're going to try and do this week that'll be a bit of a scary one.
Yeah, and this one's a bit more intense. It's I guess the podcast will always come out after the video, so we can talk about it. Essentially, this episode it's sort of funny. It's almost like a dark comedy. I think it's kind of funny how you'll have to ask Siri something like, Siri, call husband, and she'll say, you'll have to unlock your iPhone first. But like, she knows that it's me, like my voice is recognized. So why is she saying that? So I thought it would be funny if we do this skit where someone breaks into the house and the final moment will be like, Siri, call 000. And she's like, you'll have to unlock your iPhone first. And then I die. Like, just a little funny skit. So that's what we're going to work on probably this week if we can. We might need a third person because it needs 2 people to shoot it. Or he could just be
Nick's putting his hand up.
The person.
Man behind the scenes here.
Yeah,
he can be our robber.
A break-in, the robber. Yeah, don't have to say anything. You just have to like walk around.
And so, we're going to have to work out how we're going to shoot that. How can we shoot this to actually pull off that it's scary? How are we going to shoot? It should be nighttime. That's always when scary things happen. So we had to shoot in low light, but have it still look like it's dark, but still be able to see everything. So that's sort of the purpose. Another purpose with these videos for us is to learn how to make these things, so that one day if we're making a feature film, and the DP says I need to make some adjustments for to change the lighting to look like whatever, we're not going to be a deer in the headlights. We're going to actually have an understanding of what they're going to be trying to do, and maybe we'll have some tips.
Oh, no, we will not.
I have a thought.
Excuse me, DP,
Zero
I
to
used to do
hero.
videography. Could
I don't know if you've seen my...
just tweak this. I just used 2 LED panels and you went to school for this, but it's fine. Just let me give you a tip.
Have you seen our Hey Siri skit?
That's like the classic actor thing to do as well. Be like, tell everyone else, if you do this, it'll be better.
You know that line you just
There's
said
a movie called
better.
Living in Oblivion, which I'd love to see again. It has Steve Buscemi and Catherine Keener, and it's almost like a comedy of errors of making a film. It's quite old now because I watched it at film school, which was 16 years ago.
Gee. Did you watch it on VHS or what?
Legit, I think
Actually,
we probably did. It was definitely DVD, if not VHS.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good one to watch for anyone that wants to be an actor.
What if Damien had an eye patch like Wolf? Let me think about that one, Chad.
All right, you're the genius. Nick Brown, Living in Oblivion, Scene 6, take 1, let's shoot it!
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
I think
That's our homework.
I've mentioned it to you a few times.
Yep.
It's just all this stuff that happens on sets, but in a sort of heightened way. But it's a great sort of film for filmmakers to
Cool. Let's watch it.
Yeah, let's watch it again.
And what's some homework for our listeners? What are we? What were we
Watch
talking about
Living
the
in
other day?
Oblivion.
Yeah, watch that one. And what was the other
Why
one
are we
said?
giving homework? You are such a cop.
Oh my god.
Or a teacher.
I am.
My sister likes to say that Tim would have made a good cop, is it?
Yes.
Or a teacher. Because she just thinks he's by the book, follows the rules
Yeah.
and it's so funny. And he's straight away first podcast.
Bit of homework
Let's have
for the
some homework.
listeners.
Whereas I'm like, I don't think children could have homework. They should
should
just go home and
play.
be free.
They probably learn more that way. I think I would have. Homework, yeah. Be with your parents when
Yeah.
you get home. Hang out.
Yeah,
Ride your bike. Kick the footy.
exactly.
You've been at school all day. It's ridiculous. You've got the rest of your life to work hard. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah.
We're lovers of podcasts. We know how cool they are to listen to when you're driving in the car or doing the gardening or whatever. So hopefully we've brought you guys a bit of joy
Yep.
and you're enjoying it. Feel free to check out the Instagram page, which is
Part-time creative podcast.
there a dash in there?
No dash. Part-time creative podcast.
Nice.
Instagram, and that's also the TikTok. And we will have a YouTube channel
Yep.
up soon, which we'll link to in the Instagram account.
Yep. And our first guest will be Lucy Gransbury.
Yep.
We've recorded that. She's a legend. We're looking forward to sharing that with you guys. And we're proudly recording from Adelaide, Australia, my hometown. And
I've got to hang up again.
Yeah, just got to hang up.
How do I hang this thing up? That's what I'm going to say every single ending.
Maybe that's it.
That's my thing.
Thanks. We're just going to hang up now.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
See you soon, guys.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't